President Bongbong Marcos has secured multi-million-dollar investment pledges from Indonesian investors. MJ Mondejar has the details.
The conversation between Indonesian investors and President Bongbong Marcos during the silence of the 43rd ASEAN Summit in Jakarta, Indonesia has been fruitful. Three leading companies engaged with the president. First is PT Vaksindo Satwa Nusantara, specializing in vet vaccines. They plan to invest $2 million in the Philippines in collaboration with Unico Incorporated Philippines. This is expected to assist the government's efforts in combating avian influenza. Next, President Marcos spoke with PTWIR Asia Tbk, a metaverse firm specializing in AR, VR, and artificial intelligence. The Indonesian company intends to invest $20 million in the Philippines and also plans to support small businesses in the country. President Marcos also engaged with Pacific Satellite Nusantara, or PSN. The company aims to contribute to improving digital connectivity in the Philippines. In fact, they are planning to establish a satellite in the country. Once completed, they will be able to provide a whopping 13.5 gigabytes per second internet bandwidth to the government and the consumer market in the Philippines. The company is set to launch its satellite in December of this year. In total, Indonesian investors are set to pour $22 million in investments based on the president's meetings. Meanwhile, the president and the Indonesian business sectors held a fruitful meeting in Jakarta. Both sides agreed to strengthen their ties in rice research, agricultural technology, food security, government entities, and climate change solutions.
With strong partnerships, I see many opportunities for ASEAN partner countries and the Philippines to further strengthen our ties in trade and investment.
So depending on the country, where their strength is, that is where we're asking help. That's where you can see the real purpose of ASEAN. And that is greater collaboration on all areas.
It is always a game plan of President Marcos Jr. to promote the Philippines as the #1 investment destination globally. The same thing that he did here at the ASEAN Summit. For Ganamabul of Philippines, MJ Mondejar, SM9 News.
The Philippine envoy to the United States has outlined a potential schedule for President Bongbong Marcos' upcoming visit. MJ Mondejar is back for more news.
Even though November is still some distance away, potential events for President Bongbong Marcos' visit to the United States are already being planned. This includes the president's attendance at the APEC summit from November 15 to 18. According to U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines, Jose Manuel Romualdez, the president's schedule will be quite hectic, including a visit to Hawaii.
And then the president plans to visit another city in the West Coast, and then from there possibly go to other. Maybe we're still trying to work out a short stay at a short visit in Honolulu. There's a large Filipino community there. But all of these schedules are still being worked out.
Hawaii holds a significant place in the president's family history. After the EDSA People Power Revolution, the Marcos family lived there for some time, which is why they have a strong support in that U.S. state. Meanwhile, investors are eager to meet President Marcos in his upcoming visit to the U.S. According to Ambassador Romualdez, Silicon Valley investors are particularly keen to have an audience with the president.
Yes, definitely. The Silicon Valley tech companies are very eager to meet with him. And there's also quite a number of requests from financial institutions. There are also companies that are in the manufacturing business in the West Coast. And probably a follow-up on the nuclear, the small modular nuclear power plants that we've been talking about. There are a number of companies that are based in the West Coast.
President Marcos had already expressed his gratitude to the Filipino community in Hawaii as some of our kababayans visited Malacanang last year. From Jakarta, Indonesia, for Ganamabul of Philippines, MJ Mondejar, SM9 News.
First in our news, top officials from the Philippines and China met at the ASEAN-China Summit in Jakarta, Indonesia, wherein President Bongbong Marcos stressed the swift creation of the Code of Conduct for the South China Sea. MJ Mondejar for this report.
President Bongbong Marcos and Chinese Premier Li Qiang held talks at the ASEAN-China Summit here in Jakarta, Indonesia. This meeting occurred amid tensions between the Philippines and China over disputed territories in the South China Sea. During the gathering of various ASEAN heads of state, President Marcos Jr. expressed the Philippines' stance on the territorial dispute.
We must emphasize that practical cooperation in the maritime domain can only flourish with an enabling environment of regional peace, security, stability, anchored in international law.
President Marcos also reiterated the Philippines' commitment to asserting its rights in a contested territory along with Chinese Premier Li. Prior to the 43rd ASEAN Summit, China released a new 10-dash line map for the South China Sea, which drew rejections from other countries, including the Philippines, with the Department of Foreign Affairs calling the 10-dash line unacceptable.
The Philippines, therefore, continues to uphold the primacy of the 1982 UN Convention under the Law of the Sea as the framework within which all activities in the seas and oceans are conducted. We once again reaffirm our commitment to the rule of law and peaceful settlements of disputes.
Indonesian President Joko Widodo, who now chairs the ASEAN, emphasized the importance of mutual respect among claimant nations in the South China Sea to maintain peace. To ease tensions in the disputed territory, President Marcos stressed the urgency of finalizing the Code of Conduct, or COC, for the South China Sea.
The early conclusion of an effective and substantive COC that is in accordance with international law, including the 1982 UNCLOS, remains the goal for ASEAN and for China.
The Philippines hosted the latest discussion on the COC formation last August, wherein the country previously stated that a conducive environment was needed before a code of conduct could be established, especially in light of the recent water cannon incident during a resupply mission at the Ayungin Shoal.
The Philippines firmly rejects misleading narratives that frame the disputes in the South China Sea solely through the lens of strategic competition between two powerful countries. This not only denies us our independence and our agency, but it also disregards our own legitimate interests.
For now, the Presidential Communications Office is yet to release the details of what transpired between the meeting of President Marcos and Premier Li. For Government of the Philippines, MJ Mondejar, SMNI News.